I'm Paweł from Ferrum Audio, and today I want to share something we have been building for quite some time, our Ferrum Streaming Control Technology, or FSCT in short. It allows your DAC to display what's currently playing, artist, title of a song, and lets you control playback using your DAC's remote all over USB. At Ferrum, we are known for delivering high-end sound quality, but that's never been our only goal. We also believe our devices should integrate smoothly with modern systems. FSCT is a big part of that vision, and in just a minute, my colleague Wojtek will show you what it looks like in action with the latest major firmware update, the second firmware generation for WANDLA. But first, let me tell you how it all started. The story of FSCT actually began with something we haven't officially released yet, our own streamer. I think by now it's not a big secret that we are working on one. From day one, we knew the streamer had to work perfectly with WANDLA. That meant full control, play, pause, next track, and also real-time display of what's playing right on WANDLA's screen. And ideally, you'd be able to use the WANDLA remote to control playback on the streamer. So we started asking ourselves, how do we actually connect the two? We thought about using a dedicated protocol over some physical interface, maybe something custom. But during those discussions and brainstorming sessions, we realized something surprising. The best possible connection for what we wanted was USB. Now, I know USB has its fair share of skeptics in the audio world, but we believe it can be done right. And more importantly, it gives us incredible flexibility. USB already carries audio very well, and we realized we could use existing standards to add control features too. Things like volume and transport control are already part of the USB audio class and HID specs. And for everything else, like sending track titles and playback progress, USB lets us extend functionality in a standard confident way. And that's when we had our aha moment. If we do this right, this isn't just a streamer to WANDLA feature. We could bring the same capabilities to regular computers and even to other streamers. We could have stopped at let's make a custom driver just for WANDLA. But then we realized that it's bigger than that. This is the missing piece in USB audio. It's something that already exists in other interfaces like Bluetooth. Just think of when you connect your phone to your car. You can control playback from the steering wheel and the car shows what's playing. We wanted to bring the same level of integration to USB, and that's exactly what FSCT does. FSCT is composed from three things. Volume control by using the standard USB audio class 2.0. There is nothing proprietary here. Transport control, play, pause, next, previous by standard HID consumer control buttons. Now playing metadata and progress bar, that's where our own FSCT protocol comes in. It handles status of a playback, artist, title, and current playback time. The host side of this, meaning the software on the computer or streamer, which we call driver, is open source. It's available on our GitHub under an open source license. Anyone making streamer can use it, and any DAC manufacturer can implement FSCT as well. And what's really clever, the metadata about what's playing is already available in regular computer systems because most players report it to the OS. Our driver just picks it up and sends it to the DAC. Things are a bit different with third-party streamers. Their systems are often more custom built and not as standardized as desktop OSs. But we are working on that too. We are developing solutions to make FSCT easy to integrate even in those specialized environments. So, that's Ferrum Streaming Control Technology. And now it's built right into WANDLA with what we are calling the second generation firmware, starting from version 2.0.0. But FSCT is just one part of the story. So let me hand it over to Wojtek to walk you through the rest.
Hello again, I'm Wojtek from Ferrum Audio. Since Paweł already explained you what Ferrum Streaming Control Technology is, now I will guide you through and show you how to get it into work and what other changes the new 2.0 firmware brings. As a reminder, now our FSCT is compatible with both Windows and Mac OS computers. as well with Volumio-based streamers. For computer users, it requires a dedicated driver, available for download on our website, link down below. If you're using Volumio, simply add the FSCT plugin. We're actively working to expand FSCT across more various companies and developers. We hope that every WANDLA user will have the opportunity to use this technology. Now I'll show you the revised UI in action. We've changed the user interface to make it better suited for use with streamers and in living room listening situations. The home screen shows us all the necessary information about the song being played, such as the artist name and song title. We can also see a progress bar along with the time of the song, and below it we have information about the sampling frequency and a bit depth of the audio file being played. When FSCT is launched, the transfer buttons will be hidden under the name of the song and artist. To stop or resume playing the song, simply touch the screen where the transfer buttons were before. Skipping to the next or previous song is possible with a short swipe to the right or to the left. If you're controlling playback via the remote control, just press the left or right arrows to navigate over songs. The central round button is play and pause. They work when you are on the home screen, but as they are contextual buttons, they preserve function to navigate inside the menu and gain the ability to change settings when appropriate pop-up is shown. It's worth to know that we have added two variants of home screen we called touch and remote. The first one is made to be easily accessible from short distances and controlled via a WANDLA touchscreen. The former is made to be easier to reach from far away and to be used with remote control. Nothing prevents you from using them interchangeably. Changing variants is possible by swiping up on the touch home screen and down on the remote home screen. By the way, the home and return buttons on the remote have changed their functions. Home button brings you back directly to the home screen as previously, but now it also acts as a switch between the two variants of the screen. Return button becomes menu and back button. It means that in menu it switches to previous screen, but on the home screen you can use it to enter to the menu. New firmware introduces new volume scaling. We've received suggestions from customers that in some cases to drive the DAC to a satisfactory volume level, you need to set it in the upper end of the volume scale. We've changed this and now the volume control is more natural. Additionally, for those customers who prefer a slightly longer volume range, I recommend setting the output mode in the menu to the red mode and using input trim function to reduce overall signal amounts. Here I would like to reassure everyone, the change in scaling as well as using the trim function do not negatively affect the sound quality. When you set the similar volume by ear using on the new firmware, the audio signal follows the exact same volume control path as it did on the older firmware version. The only noticeable change is the number shown on the display screen. The same happens with the trim function. It only corrects the volume value virtually, but physically there's only one place where pre-calculated attenuation from various parameters is applied to the audio signal. Now let's take a look at the menu. The input tab now contains settings for each digital input. Each input can be marked as favorite, and this gives us two convenient features. The first is that any input tagged as favorite is prioritized and shown first on the input list, which shows when you tap the input buttons. The second thing, when you use the remote control, you can periodically tap the input button to choose from among the inputs marked as favorites. There is a hack here. When the input pop-up is displayed, you can use left and right buttons to select the rest of the inputs as well. Bonus tip, if you press and hold any inputs button from the main screen input menu, you can also select the chosen input as a favorite, or you can go directly to the settings by using the second button. Now each digital input has an additional slider called jitter suppressor. It replaces safe mode as it gives you more control over the same parameters. This settings allows you to adjust the jitter suppression algorithm on each digital input. Higher values provide better performance but might cause compatibility problems with some source devices. Lower values provide better immunity to signal quality problems but with slightly lower performance. It's best to leave the slider in the factory position and use it only when you have synchronization problems between the WANDLA and the source. Now let's dive into the I2S input settings. This is where the most changes appeared. I2S is not a standardized port, so users often ask us if a particular source would be compatible with WANDLA. Often it was the case that unfortunately they couldn't not use this input. The new firmware opens up new possibilities for these users, as our R&D team has added several options that significantly increase the WANDLA compatibility with other devices. Let's discuss the most important new features. The SD detect method. In earlier firmware version, it was possible to set the corresponding pin in the I2S input that determined whether a given incoming audio signal was a PCM or DSD. Now the updated firmware introduces automatic DSD signal recognition for the situation when connected source does not use a specific pin to issue a DSD flag. You can still select the pin as before, but it's probably not necessary at all. DSD channel assignments. In some cases, user noticed that audio channels were swapped when playing DSD. Now our new firmware introduces a simple solution. If this occurs, you can swap the channels when needed. Left-right clock polarity, serial clock polarity and data polarity. At these points, we can reverse the polarity of the given signals in the I2S input. I will walk you through an example that will show you how to use these three functionalities in practice. Let's assume that the source we would like to connect to the WANDLA has an output pin number 1 designation data plus and pin number 3 data minus. In WANDLA, these designations are natively exactly the other way around. So in order for source to get along with WANDLA, you need to set positive on pin 1 in the data polarity option. Always make sure what the polarity of the I2S output in the source is, so that it can be correctly matched to the I2S polarity in WANDLA. The last new feature of I2S input is optional master clock synthesis with reclocking. Specifically, here we can choose whether the WANDLA should derive the clock signal from a line dedicated specifically to the clock, or whether it should perform recovery based on incoming data on another line. Some source devices don't have a dedicated signal line for the master clock, or they provide master clock of incompatible frequency. In the older firmware, such devices could not simply work with WANDLA. That limitation is now gone. With the updated firmware, WANDLA can recover the clock signal, which gives us an additional option to expand WANDLA's compatibility with various sources. Okay, there are two more things to discuss. Now let's turn to the Control tab in the menu. The new firmware introduces volume synchronization with the USB host. In a feature called USB volume control mode, we have three options to choose from. Master. Volume on WANDLA is synchronized with volume on the host side. Changing volume on the host causes volume setting change on WANDLA and in the other way around. It works even when USB input is not selected on WANDLA, in order to allow you to use USB connection as a volume control for other inputs as well. When you decide to use this option, please be cautious, because the host has the full control over the WANDLA volume, and in some cases it might change it to the maximum. This change can be made by some player application installed on the computer, or when you connect to the streamer or computer for the first time, as well as after an update of any site. USB in only. Same as master, but it works only when USB input is selected on WANDLA. Chained. Pre-regulation on USB input only. The volume from host is added to the volume set on WANDLA to simulate the volume regulation on the host side, but the actual regulation is done on the WANDLA volume controller. It works only when USB input is selected on WANDLA. This is reminiscent of the volume control behavior from older firmware. Another thing to discuss is the function button on the remote control. As of now, the following functions can be assigned to it: volume control type, upsampling filter, impact plus, tube mode, spatial enhancement. Of course, the last three are only available in the WANDLA Golden Sun edition. Thanks so much for being with us and supporting Ferrum. If you ever have questions, run into an issue, or want to share an idea, please contact me via our support system. You will find it in the support tab on our website ferrum.audio. Until next time, take care and enjoy the music.